Imagine living with unshakable peace, where no one's opinions control you, and rejection never affects your confidence. In a world full of distractions and outside influences, how can you stay focused on your true path? Buddhism holds the key, guiding us to unlock our inner strength by focusing on ourselves and letting go of what others think. In this video, we'll explore 10 powerful Buddhist lessons that will help you reclaim control over your life and find true freedom within. Let's dive in and discover how focusing on yourself can lead to lasting peace and happiness. Chapter 1: True happiness comes from within. Buddhism teaches us one profound truth: true happiness does not come from the external world but from within ourselves. As Buddha once said, "Peace comes from within, do not seek it without." This statement holds incredible power in a society where many people chase validation and joy through material possessions, praise, or approval from others. But relying on external factors for happiness creates a fragile foundation, one that is easily shattered when expectations are not met. When our sense of peace depends on others, we give them control over our emotions. This often leads to disappointment, frustration, and a feeling of emptiness because no one, no matter how close, can make us happy all the time. Buddhism offers a solution: look inward. It's not about shutting out the world or becoming indifferent to others, but about learning to cultivate a sense of contentment and peace that is independent of external circumstances. When you stop searching for happiness outside yourself, you start to build an inner strength that nothing can shake. This process requires you to be comfortable with who you are, to accept yourself fully, flaws and all. It also means finding joy in the present moment, practicing gratitude for what you already have rather than focusing on what you lack. By practicing self-reliance, you not only strengthen your emotional stability but also gain the ability to weather life's inevitable ups and downs with grace and resilience. Take, for example, the way modern society emphasizes social media validation. People often measure their worth by how many likes, comments, or followers they have, which can lead to constant stress and anxiety. This external validation is fleeting. It can boost your ego for a moment, but it leaves a void when it fades. By contrast, those who practice self-reliance and cultivate inner peace are less affected by such superficial measures of worth. They know that true contentment comes from within, from embracing their individuality and finding fulfillment in personal growth rather than external praise. In embracing this Buddhist teaching, you stop waiting for others to give you happiness and take control of your emotional well-being. It's a transformative shift in perspective that allows you to live more authentically. You start to realize that your happiness is not someone else's responsibility, it's yours to nurture. The more you learn to rely on yourself for peace, the stronger your foundation becomes, making it unshakable in the face of life's challenges. This lesson is not about selfishness but about creating a stable emotional core, one that enables you to give more to the world without being drained or dependent on others for your sense of worth. Chapter 2: The Power of Solitude. In a world that constantly emphasizes the importance of social connections and interaction, the idea of being alone is often viewed negatively. Yet, Buddhism teaches that solitude is not something to be feared but a source of immense strength. As the Buddha wisely said, meditate, live purely, be quiet, do your work with mastery. These words remind us that solitude provides the space for true self-reflection, personal growth, and emotional healing. It is in the quiet moments, away from the noise and distractions of the world, that we truly begin to understand ourselves and find inner clarity. Solitude doesn't mean isolation or loneliness, it's about embracing time with oneself to nurture spiritual and emotional development. In moments of stillness, you can listen to your thoughts without judgment, reflect on your actions, and gain insights into your own mind and heart. This process of introspection is essential for growth because it helps you identify areas in your life that need change or improvement. By being alone, you develop a deeper connection with your inner self, which strengthens your emotional resilience and equips you to face the challenges of life with greater confidence. In today's fast-paced, connected world, the constant pressure to be around others or stay connected through social media can prevent us from fully appreciating the benefits of solitude. Many people feel uncomfortable being alone, fearing that it reflects a lack of social standing or approval. But in reality, solitude offers an opportunity for self-discovery that group interactions often cannot. When we are constantly surrounded by others, our thoughts are often influenced by external opinions and social expectations. It's in solitude that we find the freedom to think independently and authentically. Consider the example of meditation, a key practice in Buddhism. Meditation is often done in solitude, and it allows individuals to center themselves, calm their minds, and connect with the present moment. Through meditation, people learn to embrace silence and turn inward, discovering a profound sense of peace and clarity that is hard to find in a busy, chaotic environment. In these moments, we stop relying on others for comfort or validation and begin to cultivate self-reliance. By practicing solitude regularly, we develop the ability to find comfort in our own company, to be our own best companion. Moreover, solitude is where creativity and inspiration often flourish. Many great thinkers, artists, and leaders have credited their most profound insights and breakthroughs to periods of solitude. When you allow yourself time alone, free from distractions, you open up space for new ideas and perspectives to emerge. This mental clarity and creative flow are some of the greatest gifts of solitude, helping you to approach life with renewed purpose and vision. Rather than seeing solitude as something to avoid, view it as a sacred time to reconnect with yourself. By embracing solitude, you gain the space to nurture your personal growth, deepen your understanding of life, and strengthen your inner power. Instead of relying on the presence of others for comfort or distraction, you learn to be content with your own thoughts and emotions. In this way, solitude becomes a place of empowerment, allowing you to navigate the complexities of life with a calm, steady mind. Chapter 3: Stop seeking approval from others. One of the key teachings in Buddhism is learning to stop relying on others for validation. As Buddha said, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. This reminds us that the approval we truly need comes from within, not from external sources. When we depend on others for praise or recognition, we give them control over our happiness, which often leads to disappointment and insecurity. The constant search for approval can be exhausting and unfulfilling. Whether it's through social media, work, or personal relationships, we often find ourselves trying to meet others' expectations to feel worthy. However, true self-worth comes from accepting who we are, not from what others think of us. When we focus on self-acceptance and practice giving ourselves the recognition we deserve, we become less dependent on external validation and more emotionally resilient. Buddhism teaches that the more we approve of ourselves, the less we need others to define our value. This shift in perspective allows us to live more authentically, free from the pressures of pleasing everyone around us. By cultivating self-love, we build an inner strength that can withstand life's challenges, making us less vulnerable to criticism and more confident in our own path. Chapter 4: Don't let rejection define you. Rejection is something everyone faces, whether it's in relationships, careers, or personal goals. It's natural to feel hurt, but Buddhism teaches us that rejection isn't a reflection of our worth. Instead, it's life redirecting us towards something more suitable. Buddha's advice, how gracefully you let go of things not meant for you, reminds us that letting go is key to finding peace. When we hold on to rejection, replaying it in our minds, we cause ourselves unnecessary pain. Buddhism encourages us to practice non-attachment, learning to release our grip on outcomes that didn't go as planned. This mindset allows us to move forward without being weighed down by disappointment. Letting go frees us to embrace new opportunities and perspectives that might be better aligned with our true path. Rejection, whether in the workplace or personal life, often feels personal, but it's essential to remember that it doesn't define who we are. Many successful individuals have faced countless rejections before finding their path. The key is resilience, using rejection as a stepping stone for growth, not as an obstacle. By seeing rejection as part of life's flow, we can move forward without letting it hold us back. In relationships, rejection can feel especially painful, making us question our worth. However, Buddhism teaches that relationships, like everything in life, are impermanent. People come and go, and that's okay. By practicing non-attachment, we accept that not everyone is meant to stay in our lives, and that doesn't diminish our value. Ultimately, rejection is not something to fear. It's a natural part of life that can guide us to better things if we let it. When we stop seeing rejection as failure and instead view it as redirection, we open ourselves to endless possibilities. Buddhism reminds us that peace and self-worth come from within, not from external validation. By embracing rejection with grace, we build resilience, find inner strength, and make space for what's truly meant for us. Chapter 5: Stop fearing what others think of you. One of the biggest sources of anxiety for many people is the fear of what others think of them. We often let the opinions, judgments, and expectations of others shape our actions and emotions, which can lead to stress and self-doubt. Buddhism, however, teaches us that worrying about what others think only brings unnecessary suffering. The truth is, what people think of you says more about them than it does about you. The only opinion that truly matters is your own. Buddha once said, "Let none find fault with others, let none see the mistakes of others. But let one see one's own acts, done and undone." This powerful teaching reminds us to focus on our own journey rather than being concerned about the opinions of others. Constantly worrying about how others see us can drain our energy and distract us from living authentically. Instead of trying to control how others perceive you, something that's ultimately out of your control, focus on your own actions, choices, and growth. It's natural to want approval and acceptance from others, but placing too much importance on their judgments creates stress. No matter how hard we try, we can't control what others think, and their opinions are often influenced by their own fears, insecurities, and experiences. By worrying about these external judgments, we lose sight of what really matters, our own values and the path we are meant to follow. Buddhism encourages us to cultivate mindfulness and awareness, focusing on our own inner peace and integrity rather than seeking validation from outside sources. One way to let go of the fear of judgment is to practice self-compassion. When we are kind to ourselves and accept who we are, we become less reliant on the approval of others. Self-compassion involves treating yourself with the same understanding and kindness that you would offer to a close friend. When you make a mistake or face criticism, instead of beating yourself up or worrying about what others think, practice self-forgiveness and acknowledge that everyone makes mistakes. This helps build a sense of inner strength and confidence that cannot be shaken by others' opinions. Consider how often you think about what others are doing or how they perceive you. The truth is, most people are far too busy with their own lives to spend much time judging yours. Once you realize that others are not scrutinizing your every move, a great sense of freedom can emerge. You can start living authentically, making decisions based on what feels right for you rather than on what you think others expect of you. Additionally, Buddhism teaches the importance of non-attachment, not just to material things but also to opinions and judgments. When we release our need to control how others perceive us, we experience a sense of freedom. This doesn't mean we stop caring about others or their feelings, it means we prioritize our own mental and emotional well-being. By letting go of the fear of judgment, we create space for inner peace and allow ourselves to live a more authentic life. Imagine the relief of no longer worrying about how you're being perceived by others. You can make choices based on what brings you happiness, aligns with your values, and promotes your personal growth. Over time, you'll find that the more you focus on your own journey, the less power other people's opinions will have over you. Ultimately, Buddhism teaches us that inner peace and self-acceptance are far more important than the fleeting approval of others. By letting go of the fear of what others think, we gain the freedom to live our lives on our own terms. This is where true happiness and fulfillment can be found. Chapter 6: Stop sacrificing your peace to please others. Many of us fall into the habit of trying to please everyone around us, whether it's our friends, family, or colleagues. We bend over backward to make others happy, often at the cost of our own peace of mind and well-being. This tendency to sacrifice our own needs for the sake of others' approval or comfort can be exhausting, leaving us feeling drained and stressed. Buddhism teaches that while compassion and kindness are important, we should never do so at the expense of our own inner peace. Buddha's wisdom emphasizes balance. As he once said, "Better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace." This reminds us that while it's noble to help others, we must ensure that our actions don't harm our own well-being. Constantly trying to meet everyone's expectations will only lead to frustration because, in reality, you can never fully satisfy everyone. People have their own desires, emotions, and expectations, which are beyond our control. The more we strive to please others at all costs, the further we drift from our own sense of inner peace. There is a fine line between being kind and overextending ourselves. Buddhism teaches the importance of maintaining boundaries, knowing when to say no, and when to prioritize our own needs. Compassionate action doesn't mean neglecting yourself in the process. When we continuously give without considering our own emotional and mental health, we end up depleting our energy and leaving ourselves vulnerable to stress and burnout. Take, for example, the work environment. Many people push themselves to the brink, trying to meet the demands of their bosses or colleagues in the hope of gaining approval or recognition. While being dedicated to your work is important, constantly saying yes to every request or expectation can wear you down over time. It's essential to set healthy boundaries, making sure that you are not sacrificing your own well-being in the process. The same applies to personal relationships, whether it's with friends, family, or a partner. If you are always saying yes to avoid conflict or to make others happy, you may be neglecting your own needs and desires. Buddhism encourages us to act with mindfulness and compassion, but not at the cost of our own inner harmony. It's about finding balance, helping others when we can, but also knowing when to protect our own peace. Saying no doesn't mean you're unkind or selfish, it means you are aware of your own limits and taking care of yourself. When you are grounded and at peace within yourself, you can give more authentically and from a place of strength, rather than from a place of exhaustion or obligation. By prioritizing our own inner peace, we allow ourselves to live more fully and authentically. When we stop trying to please everyone around us, we create more space for self-care, reflection, and personal growth. This doesn't mean abandoning others or ignoring their needs, it means being mindful of the balance between helping others and taking care of yourself. In the end, Buddhism teaches us that true peace comes from within. You can be kind, compassionate, and generous, but it's important to ensure that you are also taking care of your own well-being. When you set boundaries and learn to say no when necessary, you preserve your inner peace and can give to others from a place of abundance rather than sacrifice. This balance allows for healthier, more fulfilling relationships and a greater sense of harmony in your life. Chapter 7. Focus on what you can control, yourself. In life, many of our frustrations stem from trying to control things that are beyond our power. We want people to behave a certain way, situations to unfold as we imagine, and outcomes to always align with our expectations. But one of the core teachings of Buddhism is that clinging to things beyond our control only causes suffering. The more we try to control external events or the actions of others, the more disappointed and frustrated we become. The truth is, we cannot control everything, but we can always control how we respond. Buddha taught that, rule your mind, or it will rule you. This profound lesson emphasizes the importance of mastering our thoughts, actions, and emotions. Instead of wasting energy trying to control others or manipulate situations, Buddhism encourages us to shift that focus inward, toward ourselves. The only real power we have in life is over our own thoughts, behaviors, and responses to what happens around us. This shift in mindset leads to a more peaceful and balanced life because it frees us from the constant stress of trying to influence things outside of our control. Take, for instance, relationships. We often want the people around us, whether it's family, friends, or a romantic partner, to behave or respond in a way that aligns with our expectations. But people have their own thoughts, emotions, and experiences, and it's impossible to dictate how they should act. By focusing on controlling others, we only create tension and frustration. Instead, if we focus on how we react to their behavior, we take back control over our emotions. This might mean practicing patience, compassion, or simply learning to let go of expectations. In everyday situations, we also tend to obsess over outcomes, whether it's at work, with personal goals, or in dealing with challenges. We want everything to go as planned, but life is unpredictable, and things often don't turn out the way we hope. By letting go of the need to control outcomes and instead focusing on doing our best in each moment, we reduce stress and allow ourselves to adapt more easily to whatever happens. This doesn't mean giving up on goals or desires. It means understanding that while we can influence things, we can't control everything. Buddhism teaches that the path to inner peace lies in focusing on what you can control, yourself. This means practicing mindfulness, mastering your thoughts, and reacting to situations with a calm and balanced mind. The more you focus on controlling your inner world, the less you'll be disturbed by external events. This mindset shift empowers you to respond with clarity and intention rather than being swept away by emotions or circumstances. By focusing on ourselves, we also build resilience. Life will always throw challenges our way, but how we respond to these challenges is what determines our peace of mind. Instead of reacting impulsively or trying to control every situation, we can pause, reflect, and choose the most mindful and balanced way to respond. This approach not only brings more calm to our own lives but also sets an example for those around us. Moreover, when we focus on our own growth and reactions, we often find that we inspire positive changes in others. As you work on mastering your thoughts and actions, people around you may notice your calmness and stability, leading them to reflect on their own behaviors. This is the ripple effect of focusing on what you can control, yourself. In the end, trying to control everything around us only leads to suffering. The only thing we truly have control over is ourselves, our thoughts, our actions, and our reactions. When we embrace this truth, we experience greater freedom, inner peace, and resilience. Buddhism reminds us that by focusing inward, we gain mastery over our own lives, allowing us to navigate external chaos with grace and clarity. Chapter 8. Realize that people are focused on their own lives. A common source of anxiety for many of us is the belief that people are constantly watching, judging, or evaluating us. We often worry about how we are perceived, whether we're doing enough, and if others approve of our actions. This fear can weigh heavily on our minds, affecting our confidence and leading to stress. However, one of the important teachings of Buddhism is that most people are far too absorbed in their own lives to focus on yours. Realizing this simple truth can be incredibly liberating. In today's fast-paced world, where everyone is dealing with their own challenges, dreams, and concerns, the idea that others are constantly scrutinizing you is largely a product of your own mind. People are primarily focused on their own lives, just as you are focused on yours. This doesn't mean that people don't care about you. Rather, it means that their thoughts and concerns are often occupied with their own problems and experiences. Once you accept that others are not thinking about you as much as you believe, a huge weight is lifted off your shoulders. Buddha once said, "Your work is to discover your world and then, with all your heart, give yourself to it." This teaching reminds us to focus on our own journey, rather than worrying about the opinions of others. We each have our own unique path in life, and trying to live according to others' expectations only diverts us from fulfilling our true purpose. When we let go of the fear of judgment, we gain the freedom to live authentically, guided by our own values and desires rather than the perceived approval of others. The fear of judgment often holds us back from taking risks, pursuing passions, or being our true selves. Whether it's dressing a certain way, expressing opinions, or making life decisions, we sometimes hesitate out of fear of what others might think. But in reality, people are too preoccupied with their own thoughts to be overly concerned with ours. By understanding this, we free ourselves from the unnecessary stress of trying to please everyone or fit into expectations that don't align with our own desires. Consider how often you think about the lives of others. You may occasionally wonder about a friend's choices or notice someone's behavior, but these thoughts are fleeting. The same goes for others' thoughts about you. Just as you quickly return to focusing on your own life, so do they. This realization is not only freeing but also helps cultivate compassion for yourself and others. Recognizing that everyone is dealing with their own struggles allows us to let go of the fear of judgment and instead approach others with empathy and understanding. Buddhism also teaches the importance of non-attachment, not just to material things, but also to the opinions of others. When we stop attaching ourselves to what others think, we allow ourselves to live more fully. Non-attachment means accepting that you can't control how others perceive you, but you can control how you react to those perceptions. By focusing less on how others see you and more on your personal growth, you gain a sense of inner peace and confidence. Another important aspect of this teaching is that when you stop worrying about what others think, you can focus on living according to your own values. Instead of trying to meet societal expectations or fit into molds, you can pursue what truly matters to you. This authenticity not only brings inner fulfillment but also attracts genuine relationships based on mutual respect and understanding. In conclusion, realizing that people are mostly focused on their own lives helps you release the fear of judgment and gives you the freedom to live authentically. By focusing on your own journey and letting go of others' opinions, you create space for personal growth, inner peace, and true happiness. This is a key aspect of Buddhist wisdom, learning to live without the burden of external validation and embracing the freedom that comes from within. Chapter 9. Don't get caught up in social comparison. One of the most common traps in life is comparing yourself to others. Whether it's comparing your appearance, career, possessions, or even happiness, this habit leads to feelings of inadequacy, envy, and frustration. In today's world, where social media highlights everyone's successes and best moments, the temptation to compare can be overwhelming. However, Buddhism teaches us that comparison is a form of attachment, and attachment leads to suffering. The more we focus on what others have, the less content we feel with what we already possess. Buddha once said, "Health is the greatest gift, contentment the greatest wealth." This simple yet powerful statement reminds us that true happiness doesn't come from having more than others, but from being content with what we already have. When we fall into the trap of social comparison, we lose sight of our own unique journey and measure our worth by external standards. This can lead to a mindset of scarcity, where we constantly focus on what we lack rather than appreciating the blessings in our own lives. Social media has amplified this problem in modern times. We scroll through feeds filled with images of people's perfect vacations, luxurious lifestyles, or professional successes, and it can make us feel like we're falling behind or missing out. What we often don't see is the reality behind those pictures, the struggles, insecurities, and challenges others face. Comparing your life to someone else's carefully curated highlight reel is a recipe for unhappiness. Buddhism teaches us the importance of living in the present moment and practicing gratitude for what we have. Instead of looking outward to compare ourselves to others, we should turn inward and focus on our own growth and well-being. Practicing mindfulness allows us to appreciate the present and recognize the unique blessings in our own lives. When we stop chasing after what others have, we free ourselves from the cycle of envy and dissatisfaction. Moreover, comparison often leads to a sense of competition that breeds jealousy and resentment. In Buddhism, these emotions are seen as harmful because they cloud the mind and prevent us from experiencing peace. When we are constantly competing with others, we are never satisfied, always striving for more in an endless race that has no real finish line. By letting go of this need to compare and compete, we can focus on our own path and find fulfillment in the progress we've made. It's important to recognize that everyone's journey is different. The successes or achievements of others do not diminish your own value or potential. In fact, when you focus on your unique path, you may discover that your version of happiness and success looks different from someone else's, and that's okay. A key teaching in Buddhism is the idea of right livelihood, which encourages living in harmony with your own values and purpose. This means focusing on what is meaningful and fulfilling to you, rather than chasing after what society or others deem as successful. Social comparison can also distract you from your true goals and desires. You may start chasing after things that don't align with your values, simply because you see others doing it. Buddhism reminds us that true happiness comes not from external achievements but from understanding and following our own unique path. By practicing non-attachment, you can break free from the cycle of comparison and focus on what truly matters in your life. In the end, life is not a race, and there's no need to measure yourself against others. Each person has their own timing, challenges, and lessons to learn. What matters most is staying true to yourself and your journey. When you stop comparing yourself to others, you begin to experience a sense of peace and fulfillment that external success or validation can never provide. This is the essence of Buddhist wisdom: to live mindfully, with gratitude and contentment for your own life. Chapter 10: Prioritize your inner growth over external validation. In today's world, many of us are conditioned to seek validation from external sources, whether it's approval from family, recognition from colleagues, or even likes and comments on social media. We often equate success and happiness with how others perceive us. However, Buddhism teaches that true peace and fulfillment come from within. Relying too much on external validation only leads to dissatisfaction and insecurity, as it places our sense of worth in the hands of others. As Buddha wisely said, the mind is everything. What you think, you become. This quote reminds us of the power of our inner world. When we focus on inner growth, developing self-awareness, practicing mindfulness, and nurturing personal integrity, we become stronger and more at peace. In contrast, when we chase after the approval of others, we become trapped in a cycle of seeking praise and recognition that can never fully satisfy us. The pursuit of external validation is often tied to our ego. The ego craves attention and recognition, but it's insatiable. No matter how much validation we receive from others, it's never enough. This endless chase leaves us feeling empty because external validation is temporary. People's opinions can change, and the approval we seek today might vanish tomorrow. By focusing on inner growth, we shift away from this unstable source of happiness and cultivate something lasting, inner peace and self-acceptance. Inner growth in Buddhism involves self-awareness, mindfulness, and compassion, both for ourselves and others. When we prioritize these qualities, we become less affected by the judgments of others. We learn to value ourselves for who we truly are, not for what others think of us. This doesn't mean we ignore the outside world or isolate ourselves, but rather that we anchor our sense of worth in something deeper and more stable, our own understanding of ourselves. By focusing on inner growth, you become more resilient. External validation can disappear as quickly as it comes, but the wisdom and emotional strength you develop through self-awareness will stay with you throughout your life. This resilience allows you to navigate criticism, rejection, and setbacks with grace because your self-worth is no longer tied to others' opinions. You know who you are and what matters to you, and that is what guides your actions. Another key aspect of prioritizing inner growth is that it frees you from the constant pressure to meet others' expectations. When you focus on personal development, you live in alignment with your own values and desires, not based on what society or others expect from you. This leads to a more authentic life, where your decisions are made from a place of inner clarity rather than external pressure. As you grow internally, you may also find that your relationships become more meaningful. People are naturally drawn to those who are comfortable with themselves and who live with integrity. By focusing on inner growth, you create deeper connections because you are interacting with others from a place of self-awareness, not from a need for approval. Buddhism also teaches the concept of impermanence, the idea that everything in life, including external validation, is temporary. When we base our self-worth on something so unstable, we set ourselves up for frustration. Inner growth, on the other hand, is something that cannot be taken away from you. The more you cultivate mindfulness, compassion, and self-awareness, the more grounded and peaceful you become, regardless of external circumstances. Conclusion. In the journey through life, Buddhism teaches us that true peace, happiness, and fulfillment come from within. By letting go of external attachments, embracing self-acceptance, and focusing on inner growth, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. Instead of seeking validation or fearing rejection, we learn to live authentically and mindfully. Ultimately, the path to lasting peace lies in mastering our own thoughts and actions, rather than being controlled by the opinions and expectations of others.